6 things you never knew about fear. Many people have never really thought rationally about their fears. They just are afraid of certain things and feel stuck to those fears. The following aspects of fear might surprise you, but they are true, and learning about them can be very beneficial in overcoming fear. 1. Nothing in the world is inherently fearful. Like stress, nothing out there universally causes fear. Fear is entirely an internal experience. Many people are scared to death of snakes. Others are content to have the little critters slithering all over them. The snake itself is not a frightening thing. The fear is the meaning you generate in your mind about the snake. If you have a belief about possible pain or discomfort, if you are anywhere near one, you do your best to stay as far away from the snake as possible. If, on the other hand, you decide that there is no potential pain associated with snakes, you might enjoy being with them. Another obvious illustration is public speaking. Public speaking is the #1 social fear in our culture. I know many people who are scared to death when they think of speaking in front of a group of people. Many others I know do it regularly without giving it a second thought. These examples, and plenty of others, indicate to me that it isn't the snake or standing in front of an audience that creates the fear. The fear is generated by the thoughts we have about these things. If they were inherently fearful, then everyone would be afraid of them. But everyone isn't. This understanding is useful because now, whenever you fear something, you can take responsibility and do something about it, rather than remaining a helpless victim. 2. Fears are learned. You do not have a genetic predisposition to fear. Psychologists tell us that newborn babies may have a natural fear of falling and of loud noises. Others disagree, saying the babies are simply reacting to them. They don't really have the capacity to associate a pain with an experience. The jury is still out on which theory is true. Even if we do inherit these 2 fears, that leaves all of the other fears without any genetic component. In other words, you do not inherit fearful tendencies. You didn't get your fears from your parents or your grandparents. Why then would you fear anything? If your fears are not inherited, then you must have learned them. You learn to fear something from your own experiences. If a child gets a painful sting from a bee, he may become afraid of bees because he has learned that bees can cause pain. We also learn to be afraid from the experiences of others. If a snake once bit your best friend and hurt her badly, you may come to believe that you too should avoid that pain. You are likely to create that fear in your own mind as much as if you had experienced it yourself. You don't have to experience that pain to understand that you'd rather not experience it yourself. Therefore, you avoid snakes and the pain the snakes might cause you. 3. If a fear is learned, it can also be unlearned. It doesn't matter when or where you began fearing something. If a fear is learned, then logically, it can be unlearned. How can we be sure of this? Because people stop being afraid of things all the time. I've seen people overcome their fear of heights, small places, meeting others, quitting jobs, beginning relationships, ending relationships, public speaking, and a host of others. If one person can do it, so can someone else. Sure, it may be challenging, but it is possible. 4. There is no real pain in your discomfort zone. Your discomfort zones are only uncomfortable if you choose to make them uncomfortable. Just as no event is inherently fearful, the discomfort in your discomfort zone is also your own doing. You create the perception of potential threat, discomfort, or emotional pain. If you analyze the situation carefully, you realize there isn't going to be any pain. How do we know this is true? Our experience confirms this point. Watch how we can break down each of the steps of one of our most highly feared events, public speaking, and determine where the real pain happens. Imagine that you are next to give an important speech to a large group of people on a subject that you care about deeply. While you anticipate your turn, you notice that your hands are cold and shaking, your mouth is dry, and it's difficult to put your thoughts together. The stress response is cranking. Now, here is the reality of the situation. You are comfortably sitting in your chair. There doesn't seem to be any real pain being inflicted on you while you sit there awaiting your turn. So, no need for the stress response there. At some point, you're introduced. Still, no pain there. The walk from your chair to the podium is a safe one. You give your speech to the audience. During your speech, you've remained free from danger. Still, no pain. Nobody threw any rocks, sticks, or tomatoes. They may have looked at you in funny ways. It isn't likely, but they may have gotten up and walked out of the room while you were speaking. But those actions don't hurt you physically. You may interpret those actions to mean something awful, but you make that choice. As I mentioned before, no one is hurting you with their thoughts. Therefore, you've remained safe and pain-free during your entire speech, and now you're finished. You pick up your papers and walk back to your seat. Again, no pain. In every aspect of what, for some people, is the most fearful thing they can possibly think of doing, there's really nothing that warrants being afraid. From its beginning to its end, it was an entirely safe experience. Fear is the feeling you have when you want to avoid a future pain. In this case, it is a pain that doesn't exist. You can view practically every other event that people find fearful, follow it through from beginning to end, and find the same lack of real pain. 5. You can't handle the situations that you fear. How can we be so sure? There is one place where you can immediately look that will assure you that you can handle the situations you fear. That place is in your past experience. Throughout your life, you have handled numerous situations that at first seem scary. But after completing them, you found that you remained safe and okay. So why would this currently feared situation be any different? It rarely is. 6. The only way to overcome your fears is by facing them. We could talk about all the reasons why you feel fear. We could discuss how your learned responses have caused you to feel afraid. But until you actually step through that border of your comfort zone, you will never rid yourself of your fears. As Shakespeare once observed, "A coward dies 1,000 deaths, a hero only one." But why does it happen this way? Because the coward's fear prevents him from truly living. This thought of fear repeats itself, and as a result, he doesn't expand. He remains in the same place, in his comfort zone. The hero moves through his fear to get what he seeks. He expands. He doesn't think about it much. He simply moves in the direction of his goal, into the discomfort zone, and finds that nothing is as painful as he thought it would be. In class, I ask the students to think of something that they fear. Not something that will barely edge them just outside their comfort zones, but something that they know will move them way out there. I ask them to select something that they feel they ought to do, something that would add real value to their lives, but they haven't done because of their fear. Next, I ask them to use the next 2 weeks and actually take the steps that will move them through that experience or event they feared doing. They are to move well outside their comfort zone and do whatever it is they feared doing. I'm always amazed at the conclusion of this assignment, at the breakthroughs, as well as the insights of the students who choose to go for it. I can't believe I was afraid of something so silly. I feel so alive and free since I did that. It's like a huge weight has been lifted from my shoulders. What a relief to know that I can do something that I never thought I could, or never tried, because of my fear. There is tremendous internal power that accompanies breaking through your fears. Once you recognize the true nature of fear, you start to sense that there is so much more you can go for in life. You realize your lack of growth has little to do with the external circumstances in your environment. On one occasion, I was eating dinner at a restaurant with two of my kids. After a while, my young daughter told me that she was quite thirsty and wanted another drink of water. I told her to ask the server to bring her a drink of water. Her face went sour and her eyes lowered. I could tell she didn't want to. She was afraid of asking, but she really had no idea why she was even afraid. Similarly, others see something that they want, but their thoughts of potentially painful outcomes keep them from pursuing it. As with my daughter, most of the things that we fear are based on empty ideas about what might happen to us, but usually don't. There was no threat. There would be no future pain in asking for a glass of water. It is the same with most of the things that we fear. The only pain that we will experience is the pain and discomfort that we create in our own minds. The final part of this class assignment involves inviting the students to find another fear and tackle that one as well. There is tremendous power in momentum. If you settle for one little victory, you stop the growth that you've started and go back to feeling safe in your comfort zone. The best thing you can do to continue your progress is venture out and pay another visit into your discomfort zone. Bit by bit, you discover how unreal fear really is. In the next video, find out what to do when you worry.